For those I haven't met yet, my name is Elena Ionescu. I'm the Chief Sustainability and Knowledge Development Officer here at the SCA, and I've been involved with RICO in one way or another since the very first year in 2009 in Atlanta, except for one event, which happened to be the last time the RICO event took place here in Portland in 2012. Because in April of 2012, I was 8 months pregnant with my older daughter, who these days fashions herself the #1 fan of the Starbucks Frappuccino. So it's been a while, and it's really nice to get to be here some years later with you all today. Back in the early days of RICO, when we called it the SCAA Symposium, I gave a talk about the importance of sustainability. It was 2011, and sustainability was just on the cusp of becoming a true buzzword. I was very nervous. I warned the audience that a failure to invest now would jeopardize the future of the coffee plant, the industry that we all cared so much about. I think I may have showed a photograph from the Dust Bowl of the 1930s to heighten the sense of urgency. Maybe some of you are cringing along with me right now. I mean, it wasn't a bad talk. I didn't give bad advice, but the framing, well, let's just say that it didn't exactly inspire a rush toward collective action. I felt brave when I gave that talk, and very nervous to present to a room full of people who I was sure were going to be skeptical to my message. But here's what I can see, with the benefit of hindsight and a few more smile lines, is that that audience didn't actually need me to lecture them about the importance of sustainability. You know, they might not have thought about it as much as I did at the time, and they might not have used the same language, but they had showed up at that conference precisely because they cared about the future of coffee. And I lectured them without offering much in the way of inspiration or creativity. Thankfully, I've learned some lessons in the years since, and I promise not to underestimate my audience today. I will do my best not to generalize, especially since we just spent the morning hearing about how having diverse tastes is actually a really good thing. But for all of our diversity, there are some arenas in which we have more in common than we have separating us. If we zoom out from this room, from specialty coffee, from the coffee industry, you know, we're all inhabitants of planet Earth, and we are facing some pretty big challenges. And yes, I'm talking about climate change, but I'm not only talking about climate change. And because I'm applying what I have learned in the years since 2011, I'm going to resist the temptation to talk about it like this. It would be hard to tell you all anything you didn't already know about the perils of climate change. In fact, if you're younger than I am, it probably feels like you've been hearing these messages your entire life. When it comes to climate change and coffee, well, you know, I'll grant that our conversation has changed over the past 10 years. We've discovered some important things, incorporated findings from studies like these into the discussions that we're having and the work that we're doing. I'm sure we'll know more 10 years from now than we know now. We've had some great speakers on coffee and climate change here at RICO, probably have at least one of them in the audience here with us today. And I am not an expert in coffee and climate change, but I'm using some of my intro time to talk about it for a couple of reasons. First, because we have to keep talking about the same things, even when it feels like we've said everything there is to say. Especially when the things we're talking about are these complex, big, wicked problem type topics. We keep bringing new people into our industry and into our conversations, and they bring their new ideas with them. The industry is dynamic, and thank goodness for that. Another reason that we need to keep talking about coffee and climate change is that there are as many conversations to have as there are people in this room. Over the years, I've heard and seen a lot of this, and I haven't seen as much of this. A lot of desperation, maybe not so much inspiration. These two things, these two approaches don't have to be mutually exclusive, but it's a choice and it's a practice to hold space for both of them. And I get that it can be uncomfortable to talk or even think about opportunity when we know that in real time, in the present, the negative impacts of climate change are affecting people and ecosystems that we care about. So if the imminent disaster narrative works for you, if it keeps you showing up and having the conversations and putting in the work, then I am not going to take it away. But I know that I have some work to do on changing my own mind, and because of that, I'm going to offer a quote that I read in a book that meant a lot to me last year called All We Can Save. It's a bit of a long quote, but it's worth it. Nothing has threatened our ecologies more than the extraction and burning of fossil fuels and the affluent consumer culture. But we have also been granted an astonishingly beautiful gift that has never before been given to humans: the chance to shepherd human and animal life into the coming centuries and millennia, when we know that much of it would otherwise disappear. That's a power that should make us very humble and a privilege that can motivate us profoundly. In a way, our darkness, the knowledge that without our great effort, many or most of Earth's creatures will vanish, is what reveals the light within, the seed of life and possibility that we share with all of Earth's life, the one that we can carry forward. For better and for worse, we are the ones at the intersection of knowledge and agency. By Emily N. Johnson. So it's with the idea of multiple approaches in mind simultaneously that I would like to welcome the first speaker in this session, Dr. Tanya Humphrey, the Director of Development and Research at World Coffee Research.